Masculinity in Mafia Films by Catherine Fitz. The concept of masculinity. Masculinity as a cultural concept refers to the traits and characteristics traditionally associated with men, which are not fixed but evolve with historical and cultural context. With the traditional model of manhood, being a risk-taker, courageous, and putting himself first for his family has now pretty much been reshaped, if not erased. Masculine figures have changed from prehistoric hunters to Greek warriors to the Christian devout of the Middle Ages to 21st century business executives. I'm now going to start with The Godfather Part 2. Michael Corleone has had to take over the job of mafia boss after his father's passing. He was once his own man who tried to stray away from the mafia, but he ended up controlling it. Whereas Vito's masculinity was centered around being a family man and staying true to his values, and his version was much more traditional and controlled, whereas Michael's masculinity was more centered around being strategic with not much emotions that would lead to his decisions. Vito was very loyal, but Michael was more just scared. Vito had values that he never strayed from, whereas Michael just wanted power and not much else played a role in Michael's mind when making decisions. I now have some videos to compare their differences in their masculinity.
I don't know what to do. You can act like a man! What's the matter with you? Is this how you turn down a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman? What can I do? What can I do? What is that? Look. You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
So obviously, Vito cared a lot about family. That was his main, that was always what came first in his mind.
I didn't want your son, Michael. I wouldn't bring another one of your sons into this world. It was an abortion, Michael. It was a son, and I had it killed because this must all end. I know now that it's over. I knew it then. There would be no way, Michael. No way you could ever forgive me. Not with this Sicilian thing that's been going on for 2,000 years. Oh.
Obviously, family doesn't really come first in Michael's mind. Vito would never hit his own wife, but Michael's obviously very different. And then here's Michael killing his own brother.
Blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
So Michael even watched his own brother's death that he caused. He obviously didn't have much connection to his family, whereas that was pretty much all Vito really truly cared about. Next is Analyze This. Paul Vidi's a mafia boss, so he feels he needs to be as manly as possible. Vidi starts getting emotional about things, having panic attacks, and starts to struggle with some of his manly tasks. Vidi is ashamed to ask for help because he's so scared of becoming feminine and less masculine. In his eyes, he sees having emotions as weak, which terrifies him. On the other hand, Ben Sobel seems to be a semi-feminine guy, but he ends up becoming, quote-unquote, more manly once he starts getting involved in more dangerous situations. Ben's physical courage is tested in the movie, whereas Vidi's emotional courage is tested. Even in this picture, you can see Ben Sobel is sitting cross-legged, which is pretty much more feminine, and Vidi's in a suit, and you can kind of already see the difference in how their masculinity is presented.
I have to say, being unable to perform 3 or 4 times is not...
8 times.
8 times, it's not catastrophic.
Well, maybe not to you. Look at you. But if I can't get it up, that makes me less of a man, and I can't have that. In my world, I deal with animals, Doctor. They may seem dumb to an educated guy like you, but make no mistake about it, Doctor. Animals are very cunning, and they sense weakness.
obviously, being a man and being manly is always in VD's mind, and even says to Ben, like, you obviously don't have to worry about this, but I do. So that's obviously, like, what's always on his mind is being perceived as manly. And then here's Ben standing up and becoming more quote-unquote manly.
My name is Ben Sobel Leone. Ben Sobel Leone. I'm also known as Benny the Groin, Sammy the Schnoz, Elmer the Fudd, Tubby the Tuba, and once as Miss Phyllis Levine. But that was at a party. It was years ago. I smoked at the Tibet, and I had a Bakalut, and then suddenly I'm in fishnets and singing show tunes. These things happen, but it has nothing to do with what I'm here with you fine gentlemen today. So I apologize. That being said, I am also known to the people who know me the best as the fucking doctor.
So that was Ben being more manly because he's standing up to these scary people and not being scared, which would be considered more feminine. Now, Mean Streets, Charlie and Johnny Boy are obsessed with how they are perceived. They both try to assert dominance by being violent because they believe that it makes them manlier. Charlie sees masculinity through being loyal and responsible. He believes that in order to gain respect, he must be seen as a real man in his little mafia world. Charlie struggles to be seen as masculine because he's always trying to be respected, tough-looking, and morally good, but he does not succeed with any of those. Johnny acts fearless and wild by showing off, picking fights on purpose, and refusing to pay debt. Johnny believes that this all makes him seem more masculine, but it actually makes him seem more insecure and unstable, and, in my opinion, more childlike. So, obviously, the things that Johnny does are more kid-like and not very mature of him, which isn't really seen as masculine, even though he thinks it makes him look cooler, but it just makes him look a little dumb because he's just doing dangerous things just to do them.
All right, okay. Thanks a lot, Lord. Thanks a lot for opening my eyes. We talk about penance, and you send us through the door. While we play by your rules, don't we?
Even in this, you can see that Charlie is much more composed and serious, and that's how he tries to stay manly looking, whereas Johnny is more flashy and showing off. So they both want the same thing, but they attempt to do them in opposite ways. Overall, there's a consistent theme among these mafia films where the men are scared of being seen as not masculine. The characters among all these three films have different ways of coping with this insecurity. The fear of being seen as feminine leads people's actions as a way to prove to others that they are manly enough. And even looking at some of these, the covers of the movies, I already talked about, analyze this, but Mean Streets, even Johnny, you can already see is a little bit more dangerous, pointing a gun, smiling, and Charlie's a lot more serious and composed. So, yeah. And then here are my resources. Thank you.